All right. All right, ladies, we are ready to rock and roll. I want to let's give it up for Pain. Woo, thank you for doing the daggone thing. She again was my ram in the bush. So you all know me. I don't need to introduce myself. It's up on the slide. Um, my cousin asked me, or well, I was voluntold. Let me not say she asked. I was voluntold that I was going to be speaking before you ladies during the retreat, and so of course it's an honor always to be able to have someone call on you, and then when it's your family, that's even just greater. So, she said she wanted me to just talk about I'm Bruised but Not Broken with you guys, and so I said, okay, not a problem. I'm always talking about I'm Bruised but Not Broken. It's a nonprofit. I'm the founder, CEO, blah, 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 blah. But then God told me, well, you know what? In order for you to tell them about I'm Bruised but Not Broken, you have to start with you. Yes. So next slide, please. Again, tag team, thank you. Is it going to change? All right. Okay. We're going to get there. All right. So a little bit about me, CEO, founder, nonprofit, I'm Bruised but Not Broken. We do great things in the community, specifically providing resources and services for victims and survivors of domestic violence. This is me now, y'all, but this is not how it started. Next slide, please. It's okay. We're not going to allow. So this is me, Brian. That's Brian. So this is me talking about my pain. When I was 20 years of age, I met my first husband. I've been married multiple times, who I thought was a prince, but he turned out to be a monster. He abused me in every form of domestic violence: physical, mental, verbal, emotional, financial, all of it. Okay. After enduring the abuse for about 6 months, I was able to leave my abuser safely. So many other victims don't get to do that. They're not as fortunate. So I most definitely had to put that plug in there and then just show some statistics, because this is what I'm Bruised but I'm Not Broken is about. Literally that. Okay.
Say,
next slide, please. So that was a form of the pain.
How many wait?
All right.
I didn't do one.
Then the pain continued. When I left my abuser, I had several broken bones in my hands. To this day, my hands never healed properly. So my handwriting is always impacted by the broken bones that I sustained in my hands as a result of having to fight off my abuser. I thought those broken bones were the only scars that were left from the experience of being a victim of domestic violence, but that was not the case. Next slide, please. This is me. I think I was probably about 5 years old then. Okay. That was at Grandma Vandella's house in DC.
Yeah, that was Grandma's porch.
No. I thought that the abuse I experienced from not in that house.
Not in that one.
Not in that house.
I remember that porch, that fence.
Yeah. So I thought the abuse that I experienced from my ex-husband is where the pain began, but God showed me that it actually began when I was a child, okay? You see, I first experienced pain in the form of rejection and hurt from my maternal grandmother, who was also an abuser, okay? Next slide, please. Oh, go back one. All right. And then I was molested as a child by a family friend. I need to change that picture. So I don't want to forget that also too, I'm a fatherless daughter. I can walk down the street today, tomorrow, every day, and not know the man who basically gave me 23 of his chromosomes, and he doesn't know me. So struggling with longing to have a relationship with my father, to whom I never met or knew. I also had low self-esteem and didn't know my worth. I felt worthless. I felt really just completely empty, honestly. That was from that little girl in that yard. This is a teen. No, I don't think I was a teenager. I might have been 12 then, 12-year-old girl. Okay. In pain. Next slide, please. As a result of the trauma and pain that I endured in the form of domestic abuse, I became bitter and angry. And I mean bitter and angry. I didn't trust men, and I resented those who were supposed to have loved me and protect me. I was mad, I was hurt, I was broken. I also had low self-esteem. I think I just said that. And I didn't know my worth. I just said that. This went on for years until the Lord spoke to me and said, it's time to let it go so that you can be healed and live in your purpose, okay? And so SJR Sir Jakes Roberts recently preached about generational curses, and she stated that whatever you are around ultimately gets on you, and then it gets in you, and then it comes out of you, okay? That's real, y'all. That is real. So the abuse, the hurt and pain that I experienced from being a child of 5 into, 10, 12, into early adulthood, being married for the first time, to an abusive husband, that ultimately, and then the abuse that I was around, from my maternal grandmother, that got in me, okay? And then it came out of me, okay? Next slide, please. So this was the pain part. The process. So we now shifted from the pain to the process. In order for me to begin the healing process, I had to first surrender and acknowledge that the hurt and the pain existed, because I was in denial about it for a very long time. I also had to forgive. I had to forgive those that hurt me, those that caused me pain, starting with my maternal grandmother, okay? My maternal grandmother treated me so differently from my brother, who I'm the middle, so it's 3 of us. I got an older brother, I'm the middle, I have a younger sister. If my maternal grandmother gave my brother $1, she gave me a quarter, and she made it clearly evident that that's what she intended for me to have. She fussed, she cursed, she literally, I can remember, God had to bring back the remembrance in my mind when me and my mom were moving out of my grandmother's house. She literally cursed my mother she was lower than low. You are everything lower than low. I'm 5 years old, and it's getting in me, okay? I also had to forgive my mother, because I'm like, when I was molested by a family friend, I'm like, you didn't protect me. You were supposed to protect me. And there are other things that I basically blamed her for, and walked around with a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, a lot of hurt and pain. My father, this man that I don't know, and he don't know me, but I still had to say, I forgive you, okay? My ex-husband, I had to forgive him too, because after being in that abusive relationship and then getting out of it alive, I walked around very resentful, didn't trust men. I actually became an abuser. When I got married to my second husband, I basically was fighting him, because I still had the scars on me from that marriage, okay? I had to forgive the person who molested me. They took my innocence. And I felt so broken as a result of that experience. But most important, I had to forgive myself, because there was, as a result of all of this, I was blaming myself too, saying, what did I do? What could I have done? What should I have done to prevent this? I thought it was on me. to have prevented this. Once I was able to forgive, the healing began. God began to do a new work in me so that I could assume the position in my purpose, so that God could deliver me on the promise. Next slide, please. The process continued. Forgiveness was necessary because it tied me to generational curses. I think I spoke earlier today when we were having our breakthrough session. I talked about the women in our family, generation after generation after generation, going through domestic violence, abuse, alcoholism, all of that. And it went from, I can remember, again, my maternal grandmother and my mother, then me, okay? And in order for me to break that generational curse, I had to forgive and open up my heart to allow God to do the work to restore me. Pain has a way of birthing things out of you that you never expected, okay? I never expected to be a CEO and a founder of a nonprofit that provides resources and services for victims and survivors of domestic violence. If you go back to that little girl who was in that picture, I couldn't imagine being anything because my self-esteem was so low. Or if you went back to that 10-year-old, 11-year-old girl, again, could not imagine myself being anything because my self-esteem was so low. Surviving isn't just about moving past the pain. It is how you harness it and turn it into something purposeful. And that's what God allowed me to do with my pain and birthing I'm Bruised but Not Broken. Next slide, please. The purpose. Through my trauma, God gave me the purpose for my life, and it is to help others, but more importantly, to help others who were victims of domestic abuse, as well as those who need to turn their pain into their purpose so that they could see God deliver on the promise, okay? The promise for their lives. Literally, so sharing this real quick is what's the day? Tuesday. Monday, I get client intake for I'm Bruised But Not Broken. I got 2 calls, y'all, while I'm here at the retreat. Both single moms in abusive relationships, so on and so forth. And they need to be relocated ASAP. So I'm in Corolla. I'm basically calling all my resources. Hey, got somebody in St. Mary's. Can you get this done? Okay. Got someone that's in Prince George's. Can you get this done? That's my purpose. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. My passion. So the passion came once I began to allow God to use me as I walked in my purpose. See, God showed me that there were so many other Alicias out here, okay, who needed help to escape abuse and heal from past hurts and or trauma. Many were suffering in silence, and that's still true today. That is still true today because they didn't know where to turn or who to turn to. They were scared to confide in friends and family members. And that's one of the things I hear a lot from victims. They feel as though family is going to judge them. So they don't even want to turn to family, or family don't offer the actual resources of shelter and come, hey, I want to get you out of that abusive relationship. It's really sad to say, but that's the reality, okay? Again, they thought they would be judged. They didn't know their healing was tied into the forgiveness. Next slide, please. Breaking generational curses, okay? The promise came from God to break the cycle of the generational curse that was on the women in my family. You see, my maternal grandmother was an abuser. I said that. She also suffered from alcoholism. I said that. She abused my maternal grandfather and my mother, okay? As a result of the abuse that she endured from I'm speaking of my mother, from her mother, my mother then fell prey to an abusive husband, okay? Then there was me and the trauma that I experienced from being abused in my marriage. That was 3 generations of women who had experienced trauma and abuse that left them scared, or scarred, excuse me, from the pain that they had endured. So a quick note here, I don't know who my great grandmother was for my maternal grandmother. So I don't know what that woman was like. But I almost can guarantee you that I went back to that generation, which would then add up to 4, that same curse was there too.
It was.
It was there too.
It was there.
Okay. Next slide. All right. Remember, I shared that I'm bruised but not broken was birthed out of my own personal experience, the pain. As a victim of domestic violence, pain has a way of birthing things out of you that you never expected. Hearing that again, I certainly didn't expect to become the founder CEO of a nonprofit. I'm going to say that as many times as I need to because it's real. What I learned is surviving is just not about moving past the pain. It is how you harness and turn it into something purposeful. I'm going to say that again because it's so relevant. I had to turn the generational curse around so that it would not take hold of my legacy, my children, my children's children, my children's children's children. I had to crush that head of that devil, because if I did not crush it with me, it was then going to get on to my seed. And I said no more. I said no more. I was not going to allow it to continue to run rampant within our bloodline, within our lineage, within my legacy. Okay. I had to protect my legacy so that I could live in my purpose. Okay. You see, the devil had already gotten to my maternal grandmother. He took a hold of her and turned her into an abuser. Okay. He also took a bite out of my mother, and he then turned to me, but God was like, nope, it's going to start with you. And it's going to start with you because that generational curse had plagued the Stukes women so long that it basically had some destruction. You know, it was a path of destruction for us. Okay. And it had to be dug up and destroyed. And that's exactly what God had poured into me and showed me. It had to stop with me. It could no longer live. Next slide, please. This is my legacy. Okay. This is my legacy. This is my daughter. She's the youngest of 3 children. And had I not dug up that generational curse, it would be on her. Okay. It would be on her. Next slide, please. And then my sons. This is my oldest son, Patrick. This is my son, Brian, whom we prayed about today. Okay. So again, I had to knock out that generational curse. It could no longer live in my family line. I had to get it, y'all. All right, next slide, please. All right, so now about I'm Bruised but not broken. So you can see this full circle. I could tell you about IBB&B now because you know how it came about and how it was birthed through me. Okay, God changed my story through the birth of IBB&B. The women in the DMV area have received resources and service to help them leave abusive environments, deal with past traumas, low self-esteem, rebuild, restore themselves, and most of all, love themselves. That's one of the things that we do with IBB&B. When we bring the ladies together, we love on them. We embrace, we encourage, we engage, we empower these ladies. Next slide, please. All right. And I just talked about that. That's our motto. Literally. Next slide, please. Our mission statement, you guys were able to get a postcard. It has it on the back of it. Just talks about our mission and what we do in the community. Next slide, please. And I believe this one is basically me just thanking you for listening to my presentation. And then the last slide is contact information. So I do have 3 scriptures in reference to this presentation, and it's about forgiveness. So the first one is Colossians 1, 13 and 14. It says, he has delivered us from the domain of darkness, okay, and transferred us to the kingdom, okay? And the next one is Ephesians 4:31. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor, I think that's right. I can't read my whole writing. Slander be put away from your from you along with all malice. And then the last one, of course, is Jeremiah 28, excuse me. That one within itself is one. No, this one now, right? Yes. Yes, that's the one that I most definitely always just refer back to when I think about when the devil wants to come and tell and say, hey, remember this? Or remember you had low self-esteem and you ain't know what you want to be and so on and so forth. And I'm like, you know what? Yep, I do remember. But you know what? God had a plan.
Yes.
So even with you bringing it up, telling me this was my past, or this is how it was as a child, or this is how it was at 10, or this is how it was at 14, God had a plan. Okay? So miss me with that. Okay? I don't even want to hear it. As a matter of fact, I'm focusing on my future.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not living in the past.
Yeah.
And I know my future is great. It's God is just amazing. And he continues to open doors that I can't even imagine with my human brain that should be open for me. But I know it's him. I know he is going before me to lay the path, to lay the foundation, to open up the doors that need to be opened up, to make the connection. I'm going to close with this. I'm Bruised and Not Broken is a grassroots organization, y'all. We small compared to some other organizations. But it blows my mind because guess who gets the calls? I'm bruised but not broken. Anytime I have the sheriff-elect for Prince George's County call me to say, Alicia, can you do 72-hour temporary shelter? We have a victim, so on and so forth. And he and I laugh about it because I'll be like, well, what about Family Justice Center? They got grant, they got money. He was like, yeah, but that's how he does. His response is, I'm like, okay, so on and so forth. And so again, we are small, but God is basically allowing us to collaborate, to partner, to connect, okay, and most importantly, build capacity so that we can grow. So I just want to end with asking you ladies to most definitely connect with us, but pray for us. Pray for us that God continues to allow us to grow. Pray for us so that God will continue to send us the resources, the money, the grants, the people, okay? We're always looking for volunteers who want to work in the trenches with us. This calling is one that is so rewarding, but it does require work, okay? All right. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope that it blessed someone in the room. What I do have is, I did a quick little 5-point bulletin on total healing begins by letting go, learning to forgive, letting the healing process begin. That is very key. Learning to love those who hurt me and learning to be free, okay? Because when you walk in with all of this past trauma and hurt, you are not free. You are so weighted down and you're focusing on the wrong things. You cannot live in your purpose. You're not going to walk in your passion. And you might be slighting God on the promise, honestly and truthfully. So, feel free to take that. The other thing is helping to end domestic violence. We are always, educating the community, because honestly and truthfully, I feel like the only way we're going to eradicate domestic violence is through education, along with resources, but education to bring awareness, because so many people are in denial of what domestic violence really is. They think if I'm not getting beat down in the street, or punched or stabbed, shot, whatever, I'm not being abused. And I had to share with one young girl who was with a gentleman she was dating, and he literally was shaking her to the point where he left the marks in her arm, or verbally abusing her. That's still abuse. Okay. The other resource is finding safety and support, because one of our goals with IBBNB is to always have the victim be able to leave safely. Okay. Never want to put a victim in danger where they cannot leave safely from their abuser. So again, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam, for being tag team for me tonight. I appreciate you so much, so much. What do I need to do? Okay. All right. Oh, yes. So all those that join with Zoom, here, this one. Okay. Look, camera 1, camera 2. Okay. Okay. So everyone who joined via Zoom, thank you for joining us this evening. So glad that you were able to come and share in my testimony and just information about I'm Bruised and Not Broken. I do not take it lightly that you took time out of your evening to join us and just learn more about the organization, but also about me. My legacy, I think, is still online. Kayla Stukes, you still there? All right,
Yeah, I'm still here.
I'm so happy that she was able to join us tonight. Again, thank you.
Patrick and
God
Brian.
bless you and have a great evening.
She said,
All
thank
right.
you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You heard me, Mommy?
Okay.
Hold on, she wants to make it.
Who? Kayla? Oh. Hi, Kayla. Hey. Oh, Patrick on
Yeah,
it too. Hi,
Patrick and
Kayla.
Brian are
Hi,
here.
Patrick.
Hey, Mom. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, Brian's on here too. I got all 3 of them. Oh.
Woo, woo, woo.
Hi. All right. Kayla, what did you want to say? I didn't hear you.
No, that was it.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
That Patrick and Brian was here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad y'all were able to join. Thank you. I love you.
I mean, you did great.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, your mic is still on.
Okay. That's why I was hearing feedback. Hot mic.
Brian, did you need to say something to close out?
You know-
Before we got the Zoom on?
Brian, you want to close out the Zoom?
It is yours, man. All right. Thank you, Brian. Drape over.
Thank you all for joining us tonight for this session with Miss Alicia Stukes with I'm Bruised but Not Broken. Join us again tomorrow when Miss Monica will speak, Marita will speak, and Adriana will bring us a session on broken pieces. So have a good night. Love everybody. Bye-bye.
Alicia's on there. Alicia.
Oh, yeah.
Say good night. Good night. All right. Good night, everybody.